Hey everyone, welcome to Mess to Mercy, the podcast where two imperfect people share how God pulled us out of our mess and showed us His mercy. If you're struggling, searching, or just need some encouragement, you're in the right place.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Sorry about the week delay there. We'll get into the reasons why there towards the end of the episode. But today might be a little bit noisier. Just with everything going on right now, we're having to record this in the van while we drive to for medical travel, I guess it would be. But yeah, welcome to Mess to Mercy. I'm Dylan.
I'm Rebecca.
And we really felt this episode was kind of just about his faithfulness. Something I want to start doing is kind of praying with you guys and over you guys over every episode. So bear with me here while I say a quick prayer. Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for everybody listening, God. I pray that this episode would be a blessing to them, God, that you would fill their home with your presence. Lord, that through our stories and our experiences, God, you would help change lives. And Lord, those who need to hear it will hear it, God. Those who need to be encouraged will be encouraged. And I pray that your blessings fall on everybody who listens in Jesus' name.
Amen. All right. So I just wanted to start out with a verse, which was Deuteronomy 31:6 in the NLT. So be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, and do not panic before them. For the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will never fail you nor abandon you. So I just thought this verse went really well with what we're talking about today, that you're not alone, no matter how alone you feel, or no matter what you've done, He's still there. So the reason why we were a week late putting out a podcast is because I had to have a surgery. So the way that began, the whole story between that, was back in March, my appendix had perforated, and I ended up in emergency surgery. So what had happened there was I had gone to work and I felt a sharp pain in my side. And I went to the doctor's office, which was usually only open, 8 to 6 at night?
The emergency room.
Yeah, the emergency room is 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at night. And all the testing and everything was closed. So he said it didn't seem too serious because it was down the middle of my belly. So he told me to come back the next day for testing. Well, I went to work that morning before I went for testing because I'm a workaholic. And when I went for testing, they did blood work and they noticed that there was inflammation in my blood. And they sent me
inflammation markers were up.
Yeah.
Blood work.
And they sent me off to a bigger hospital for scans and testing further. And when they did the scan, they noticed that my appendix was inflamed. So I went into emergency surgery. Well, during this surgery, they ended up noticing that it was perforated. And the only thing that was holding it together from bursting was a little piece of fat, they said. And
pressed up against it.
Pressed up against it, yeah. And anyway, so I had that all done. Everything was fine. And I get a call from my doctor that April. And come to find out, he told me that they had found a tumor on my appendix when they did when they went through it and looked at it. They found a tumor on there. And we didn't know at this point how serious it was. The doctor wasn't sure. He hadn't really heard much about this tumor. It's rare. It's rare.
Slow growing, not it's not even, it's a tumor, but, and technically she had cancer, technically she didn't. This tumor was kind of in the gray area. The way she described it, the oncologist that we seen, was that it was a carcinoid, which is a tumor that wants to be a cancer, but it's not a cancer. So it kind of in that gray area, but still very, very slow growing. Thankfully, slow growing, non-aggressive, or it can kill you if it's not caught early, which hers luckily was. But it wasn't an aggressive cancer. Um, Whereas a lot of cancers are very aggressive. But yeah, it's your story. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And the tumor itself is called neuroendocrine tumor. So NETs for short. So capital NET, lowercase s. NETs for short. Through all the testing and everything came back negative, thankfully.
There was no other tumor.
There was no other tumors caught. There was nothing that indicated that there was anything going on further than that one little tumor. So the reason why we were late is, like I said, I had a surgery come up on Wednesday to make sure that there was no more positive cells left in my body, because where they cut for my appendix, they cut on the margins, which means that they cut on directly on.
So they cut through or close to being. They cut on the, like in the middle of the tumor, if not on the end of the tumor.
Yeah.
So on the stump that was left from the appendectomy, there may have been still active cells, although all the scans and everything that came up for testing showed no other tumors. There still could have been active cells. So what they did this past Wednesday is what's called a stumpendectomy, which they would just remove the stump from that was left over from the appendix down to the lower bowel, and took that all out, sent it off for pathology, and took a sample of the lymph nodes, because that type of tumor can attack your lymph nodes. So they just wanted to take a sample. It was more of an exploratory surgery, just to make sure that there was no active cells and we were all in the clear. This cancer is also, that cancer is also goes hand in hand with colon cancer. So she had a colonoscopy, and thanking God that there was nothing found in the bowel or anything like that. So all in all, very lucky, really. Yeah. Very lucky.
Honestly.
Well, I guess we don't believe in luck. Very, very thankful for God's protection, because if it wasn't for the appendix
burst
or perforating, or even having the appendicitis, that tumor could have kept growing and growing and growing. And the signs for that one aren't they're more fatigue and just kind of blends in with your everyday life, like you're just kind of burnt out, stuff like that. There's no really typical cancer signs that you would have with say other cancers. So
yeah,
very thankful for his faithfulness in that situation.
Very thankful. So another verse, thinking of like being thankful and how he's with me and things like that. Isaiah 46:4 at the NLT again. I will be your God throughout your lifetime, until your hair is white with age. I made you. I will care for you. I will carry you along and save you. And that verse kind of sat with me a little bit when I had read it, because it's true. He has been there all along, no matter what we're doing in our lives, no matter how far we've slipped, no matter what we've done. It always seems like his faithfulness and his protection was always on our lives.
He just never had turned. Even though we turned our back on him, he didn't turn his back on us.
Yeah.
I remember for an example, just, we didn't really recognize it until we gave our lives back to God, how much he had actually protected us while we were in the world. I remember one situation specifically. We were renting in an upstairs apartment, and there was 2 units. There was an upstairs and a downstairs. And I mean, at this point, this would have been 20, Probably 2019, 2018. It would have been before COVID. We were in that apartment when COVID first hit. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Just before, no, we had moved just before to our new apartment. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We ended up having some extra money on that paycheck, and I had worked some overtime, or she had worked overtime, or something. But we had gone away for Valentine's Day for the night. We grabbed a hotel room and just kind of did our own little thing. And when we came home, I think it was that Sunday.
Yeah. We had got a
even-
message from a friend.
Yeah, we'd got a message from a buddy of mine. Actually, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That our apartment was a crime scene, and I was kind of like, huh? So anyway, we rushed home, and lo and behold, there was caution tape and police everywhere, forensic scientists, everything, or forensic detectives, whatever they are. But there had been somebody killed at the downstairs apartment. And I don't want to get into any of that, but if we would have been home, I don't know what would have happened. Like, you know what I mean? So very thankful for God's protection there, because it baffles me the situations that we allowed ourselves to be put in.
Oh, for sure.
Some of them I won't get into, but just he amazes me each and every day.
You gotta really protect yourself.
Oh, you have to, for
Absolutely.
sure. We live in a glass house, and the tiniest pebble could shatter that.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize. I've always heard that saying, like, you need to protect yourself. You need to watch what you say. Like the children's song. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. Be careful, little eyes, what you see, and wherever it goes. But there's so much truth to that.
Yeah.
I mean, and for us, we allowed our house to shatter. And, even when you come back to church, you don't get a new house. You don't get a new house. You have to start building up
from the ground,
from those broken pieces.
Yep.
And that's one of the hardest things that I think have ever really had to do is, it's like I think we said in our last episode, some scars are physical. And, glass can be repaired, but, the cracks are always going to be there, right? Your house is never going to be the same. It can be restored for sure, but, you're always going to have those cracks.
Yeah. There's always going to be that imperfection.
And especially...
And that's okay that there's imperfections, because that's where God comes in. It's like they were talking about the iron. The iron. They had to put it in the fire.
Oh, silver.
Silver. I knew there was something.
Yeah, if you want to know, like, I don't know the exact terminology, but basically what they were saying was there was a ladies' study group, and they had read something in the Bible where it talks about
in the middle of the fire, being
in the middle of the fire, and they started talking about how silver's refined. And one of the ladies went and sat down with a silversmith, or whatever they're called. Anyway, someone who deals with silver. And with silver, when you're melting it down, you really have to watch it, because not enough and it won't fully cure, and heat it too much and it can ruin it. And the lady asked the guy that was melting the silver down in front of her, how do you know when it's perfect? And the words that he said back to her really stuck with me. I can't remember the rest of the story, but her answer specifically, or his answer to her specifically, was, when I can see my reflection in it. And it's kind of the same thing with God, when you're never going to be perfect, but as long as he can see his reflection in you, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
You're always going to fall short of his glory. You're always going to, you're always going to mess up. But at the end of the day, it's all about just allowing him to work through you. And You know, like nobody's perfect. You're gonna, like I said, you're gonna mess up, but you just gotta keep pressing towards the mark.
I heard something from a pastor's wife, and I think it was very good. I don't fall, or not I don't fall, but I don't stay down. I'm either up or I'm getting up.
Yep.
And that just sat with me because sometimes it's so easy to sit there in your self-pity and think of these negative outcomes and things that you've done and things like that and stay down. But
Allowing the filth of your past.
yes, just staying in that mindset of your past and what you've done, like I said, and you gotta keep thinking of where you're going, not where you've been.
Kind of to add to that too, I guess. I know for us personally, we uh, when we first started coming back to God and going to church again, and trying to straighten out our lives that we completely destroyed, if you ask me.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things was just overcoming that shame and overcoming that feeling of being dirty and not being. The way I would describe it is, I felt dirty to the point where I couldn't feel that freedom I once felt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always felt like when I raised my hands in worship that everybody, not even, and nobody was, but that everybody was staring at me, and they could see the dirtiness that I felt. And I just felt unworthy. I just felt like I had no freedom. And I was talking to one of the men on our ministry team at our church, and I was telling him, just like, I feel so dirty. I feel like I can't do this and that, and I'll never do this. And he stopped me and he said, "You have the wrong mindset." And I know later on I had heard this in a video, and I'm assuming that's maybe where he got it, but it resonated with me even to this day. He looked at me and he said, "Do you clean up before you get in the shower?" And I said, "Well, no, that'd be kind of dumb. That's what the shower's for." He said, "Exactly." And it's the same thing with God. You don't matter how dirty you are. It doesn't matter how broken, how tattered, how torn. You could be crawling back, beaten, bruised, bloody on your hands and knees. It doesn't matter. All he's asking for you is to step into his presence. And just like stepping into a shower, that water is going to wash over you. He's going to make you clean. He's going to make you whole. And although he's going to make you whole, I don't want to have put anyone on the mindset that just because he makes you whole, you still have a past, and that past is still going to come to haunt you sometimes. The enemy, especially when you turn your life to God, is going to come at you from every angle he possibly can, because just as much as you know your past, so does he. And there's been a lot that I've had to really, in the last 3 years that we've been, coming to church. There's been a lot of things that I've had to really let go of, because he's just going to he uses everything from our past.
Bitterness is an awful drug.
Bitterness is an awful drug. You are 100% right.
Yeah.
And we were so bitter for so many years. And it's something that I really have to watch, because there's even been situations in recent years that I've had to really, check my spirit.
Yep.
And pray that, just God, don't allow me to have a carnal attitude. Don't allow me to have a bitter spirit, because bitterness will destroy you. It really will.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely think I agree with you on that 100%. I believe that if it wasn't for him, our bitterness would have destroyed us. Absolutely.
It destroys us.
Yeah. We were pretty far gone, but not too far gone.
You're never too far gone.
Um, no, I'm very thankful and thinking of where he's been through my entire life. Besides just the surgery, it was with my adoption, my parents, and everything where I've been from there. I think is phenomenal. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have known God. I wouldn't have known church. I wouldn't have known any of that.
No, not at all. And just very, very not a great. Not that they're not great people. I don't want to word it in a way that. How would I?
It wasn't a godly home.
Oh, definitely not.
It wasn't a godly home. Just all the a lot of them were in jail, and a lot of the girls ended up pregnant and just not in a life that I needed
The
to
odds
be a
were
part
not in
of.
her favor.
Not at all. Um, so when I was adopted, I was, like I said last time, I was first in care at 6 months old, and I was in rough shape. Um, my parents who adopted me loved me to death, raised me right, showed me the right roads to take, taught me, just like Proverbs says, follow the teachings of your mother and your father. And I never did that. And I can see why Proverbs talks about why that is so important, to be corrected and to understand where they're coming from and to see how well I was brought up because of this.
Not only to be corrected, but to to accept correction.
Yes, yes, and that's something I struggle with. I get very upset when someone tries to tell me that I'm in the wrong, but that's okay. That's just something I'm working on personally. Um, it is okay to be told that, hey, what you're doing isn't right, in a loving way, of course. But loving or not, I never wanted to take it. Just stubborn.
Something cool this week that happened. It's just on the topic of God's faithfulness. A couple things actually. Uh, my wife and I do home care, so we work with seniors. And I was at my client's house yesterday, and when I pulled in right where I parked, or where I usually would park, there was a tree that had fallen off the hill, off the side hill, and they're on their property, and it had fallen from the day before when I was there, but it had fallen after I had left, and I was very maybe small. It wouldn't have done a lot of damage, but it would have probably broken a window or something like that because it wasn't a major, like a massive tree, but it was still like a tree had fallen and it would have done damage to our vehicle. And, it could have fallen while I was there, but thankfully, it had fallen some point between me leaving and me coming back the next day. So I'm very thankful for that. And another thing, when we had found out that she had to go into surgery, we knew she was going to have to take a week or two off. And, I just really didn't know how we were going to cover our bills. And, because life's really expensive right now, especially here in Canada. Um, and like I said, she's going to have to be off for a couple of weeks. And I didn't know. And looking at I had emailed my manager to say, hey, our bank vacation time that shows on our pay stubs, is that in a dollar amount or banked, or just like how many hours are there to be paid out? And when she'd emailed me back, she said dollar amount. So if that was the case, it was looking at like $43 and $53, and I was like, oh, great, because that's going to cover anything. So, instead of sitting there and wallowing, I opened up my Bible and I began to read and just said, Lord, like I don't really know where, this is going to come from. Yeah, she has unemployment that she can use for those couple of weeks. I said, but that's not going to, there's usually a a 2 or 3 week waiting period, and it's not going to be anywhere near what she makes from the amount of hours she works. And I just began to read and pray, and I felt a peace come over me. So I sent an email to my manager, and I said, or to to the assistant manager, and I just said, hey, whatever bank vacation hours are there, can you please add it to our next check? And she emailed me back and said, how much do you want added, and this and that. And I said the whole thing. And here's where God's faithfulness comes in. And it's not always financial, but a lot of times it is. Sometimes it's healing, sometimes it's finances, sometimes it's just encouragement. But at the end of the day, I can't remember the exact number for each of us, but it ended up working out that it would be $1,000 that we would end up getting on our paychecks from our bank vacation hours. So in that moment, I just kind of looked, and with tears running down my face, I just said, God, you amaze me. And he amazes me each and every day. He really does. And guys, if there's one thing that I could say, and one thing out of our experience that I can honestly say, is keep pressing towards the mark. Keep on keeping on, because he is faithful, and he will take care of you. He will see you through. Sometimes it's gonna feel like he's not even there.
God tells a long story.
He tells a long story. You're right. Sometimes it feels like you'd be better off going outside and praying to that fence post. But I promise you, he's listening. I promise you, he's there, and I promise you, he will see you through. It may not be in the way that you're expecting, or even the way you want. He will come through.
In the way you need.
In the way you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's it for this week, guys. I appreciate you for listening. We do have an email as well if you guys want to ask any questions, any comments, concerns that with the podcast, stuff we can do better. This is all just a learning curve right now. We don't really know what we're doing. We're just kind of going with what we feel the Lord's leading us to do. And like I said, if you guys have any suggestions, any questions.
We do have a couple guests coming on. And like he said, that will be further in the future. And as he mentioned, we do have an email. So the email would be mercy@outlook.com. And you can ask any of your questions, give input, insight, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all a learning curve. So if there's anything that you guys feel maybe we can do better, maybe there's something we're not doing that we should be, we're open books. So ask any questions. If you have any questions just about things we face, maybe something you face that you'd like opinions on, anything. Like I said, this is all a learning curve. We're trying to kind of iron out the details and just kind of get this down to a solid, not a routine, because, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out.
Thanks for listening.
Have a good day.
God bless.